Serena Williams makes me so
All right, guys. Hello and welcome back to the Pulse with Willie and Al. How's it going today, brother?
pretty good. Um, quick disclaimer. So usually what happens is like we hit record and then there's a couple there's like what 30 seconds of like the music playing before like we actually like you can hear us hear our voices.
Yeah.
And in that 30 seconds, I usually take the time to say like violent, awful shit to Shane to get him to get him to laugh. But today I got myself to laugh too hard, so I apologize in
Yeah, hey,
advance.
sometimes we got to do whatever gets us in the zone, right?
Yeah,
That's the important piece. How
yeah.
how are things going in New England today?
It's cold. We're supposed to get 2 more snowstorms in the span of like 5 days. It's currently 7 degrees out.
Oh boy.
It snowed all weekend. Yeah, yeah.
It has been
Pretty.
snowing on and off here in Istanbul, which is kind of rare, but yeah, it's I'm praying maybe a school day, snow day tomorrow.
You texted me that, and I was so confused by that. So like, what happens in Istanbul when it snows? Does like everything shut down
Well,
or?
so it's near the water, so the snow hits the ground and it just really melts. But in
Or
higher elevation places around the city, because the city's huge, higher
yeah,
elevation places, it yeah, like anywhere, it's gonna accumulate, and they don't have plows to be able to like clear it out.
yeah.
Not the manpower like they do in New England. But yeah, so here's hoping, but it's not looking good. So
Mm, excellent. Love
yeah,
that.
yeah. Today though, kind of a fun thing. We are bringing you guys episode number 71, a Super Bowl of fun. And we're gonna break down the Super Bowl with our thoughts, talk about our predictions and how good they were.
Mhm.
But before we get into that, we're gonna touch on some end of the year awards that were handed out. So,
Yeah,
without further ado, let's jump in. First end of the year award that they had, might as well start with the top one, right? Josh
yeah.
Allen wins MVP, and just kind of your thoughts on that, and how you feeling about that?
Um, you could have given it to him or Lamar, and I'd have been okay with it. Lamar had the better stats. Josh Allen, I feel like did it with a shittier supporting cast.
Hmm.
You could have given it to either one, and I would have been okay. Um, they both lose in the playoffs, so like, what it doesn't really matter. Lamar beat him in the regular season. Allen beat him in the playoffs. Yeah, yeah, I'm cool with either or.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like that's what it comes down to. A lot of people arguing for Lamar, saying like his stats were better than his previous two MVP seasons, and it's like, guys, that has no bearing on anything. That doesn't matter. Like we're not
Uh,
comparing it to other seasons. We're comparing it to other players this year.
I
So,
wish the voters weren't such cowards and voted Saquon MVP because that's really, I
yeah,
think, like if you run for 2,000 yards in a season, I don't know, man. Like that just seems like that should automatically qualify you for MVP. Like
why not vote for the whole offensive line in Philly? How awesome would
I,
that be?
yeah,
That would
yeah.
have been
Like
that would have been
there's a
wild.
reason. There's a reason only 8 or 9 guys have ever run for 2,000 yards because it's so hard.
Yeah.
Like yeah,
And the
um,
likelihood of him doing it again, not great for next year. But
yeah.
uh,
There hasn't been a guy that's ever had 2,000 yard seasons.
yeah,
Like that's
I don't know.
but
Yeah, so no issues with Josh Allen winning it. I'm not sure if you saw the
nah.
video. Showed him. They gave him a tablet and kind of showed him a video of kids from the children's hospital that he volunteers at, writing like thank you letters and congratulatory letters to him, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I was sobbing at watching that Sunday morning. I was just like, like
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, I know. As I'm in bed looking great in the morning at like 5 a.m., I'm like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
But
I was like,
he,
what am I doing with my life as I'm eating potato chips at like 8 in the morning?
yeah, he is. The thing I love about Josh Allen, though, and I just feel like not enough people give credit to this, is that he really wasn't given a chance by many teams in college. And in fact, Wyoming was the team, right? And it just a lot of people counted him out, counted against him. So to see him have this kind of success, I really would love to see him win a Super Bowl. I just there's other teams I want to see win it as well, and it's kind of tough. There's only one champ each year, so it's very
Yeah.
difficult to be able to get through that. But anyhow, moving on, offensive player of the year, it was Saquon, which, like you said, he could have been MVP. I've got no issues with this. I thought Jamar Chase had an incredible season, but
Yeah.
what Saquon was able to do, 2,000 yards, it's unheard of, man.
Yeah. And
But
you know what's wild too is he could have had the record.
yeah, he could have, but he didn't care about that, and he's much happier that he didn't care about it now because he's got a ring on his finger. So
Yeah, yeah. It was like he just won a Super Bowl, so
yeah.
he could give a shit less.
Yeah. The one thing I did want to mention though about Chase is I think it's kind of interesting because when Cup won the Triple Crown, he won MVP that year. Am I
He won
right?
Offensive Player of the Year.
Offensive Player of the Year. Okay, so it's kind of rare that that's right. No MVPs. It's basically a quarterback award, but
Yeah, Offensive Player of the Year award is always for the whoever was the best running back, wide receiver, tight end in the league.
yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah. Which this year it became a little difficult to make that decision because there was a lot of really good performances by a lot of players. But
Yeah, the finalist for that category was just nuts.
it really was.
Like, yeah. But,
Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain wins, and I know we chatted about this before, but I mean he really shut down the best receivers in the league this year. He was really unbelievable, and a big reason that Denver made the playoffs and had the success they did this season was look at some of the guys that they ended up letting go. In the
yeah.
offseason, and the fact that he was one of the ones to stay, played with a very young defense, and a lot of guys that didn't have a ton of experience, and he really was that island guy. It reminded me very much of how Darrelle Revis was that one year, minus the distractions. And he's Patrick Surtain is a beast.
I think like the stat that like I was okay with giving it to him or the guy from the Eagles, Zach, the guy who made the pick in the Super Bowl. Yeah, Zach Bond. I was okay with either of them winning it. Surtain, the stat that I just want to read you real quick. He gave up a total for receiving yards this year of 306.
Yeah.
In 17 games.
Yeah. It's insane, man. Insane what he was able to do. And guys like Chase, yeah.
Jamar Chase, who won the Triple Crown in receiving this year, 3 catches for 27 yards.
Yeah. And he still won the Triple Crown with numbers like that in that game. So
DK Metcalf, a guy that is a beast of a man.
Yeah.
3 catches for 29 yards against Surtain.
Yep. He's very, very good. And I know some people were pointing out that he had a lot of penalties on him this year, but like that's going to happen when you're playing against the best guys. You're not getting called for a penalty on every play, right? Like
what's wild with Surtain too is like guys were like going and challenging him.
Yeah.
Like quarterbacks were like trying to throw on him.
Yeah.
And it ended poorly.
It ended very poorly. I'm not positive about this, but I feel like I read that he also led the league in interception return yards as well.
Yeah.
So pretty impressive for a guy. 142?
Yeah, 132 on 4 picks.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane.
And 4 picks for a guy that I know you said some quarterbacks challenged him, but a lot of them tried to throw around him or away from him to still get 4 picks on the season. That's very impressive. So,
yeah.
Good for him. And obviously his father was excellent when he played for Miami. It just really good to see him having success as a young guy. And they talk about him too, how he plays like a veteran with a ton of experience. So, moving on, we got head coach of the year, Kevin O'Connell. I don't really have a ton to say about this other than just good for him, man. Like I know the Vikings weren't really high up on my board this year. The fact that they had the success that they did, the fact that they were in the position they did, the position they were, where they're vying for the number 1 seed going into the last game of the season. I just thought he did a very good job of coaching them up this year. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for me, you could have given this to him or Dan Campbell. Again, I was okay with either of them. So, I think what O'Connell did with Sam Darnold. I think that alone, I think, gives him Coach of the Year because like he made Sam Darnold a relevant quarterback
Yeah.
that's gonna get and he's gonna get paid by somebody.
Yeah.
Also, Kevin O'Connell needs a new extension, and yeah,
He
so
yeah, definitely should have one. Jaden Daniels wins offensive rookie of the year. I think that's kind of a no-brainer, which is now listen, I love Jaden Daniels this year. The only thing that was sad about it is you look at what Brock Bowers was able to do and the
yeah,
season he had, and there was just no way they were going to give it to him over Jaden Daniels, right? Jaden Daniels did had some unbelievable work. Had a crazy portfolio to put out there this year in terms of what he did for the Commanders. And actually, I feel like in 1 year, he was able to breathe a lot of life into that organization. So
absolutely.
really happy to see what they have in the future. And Brock Bowers, like, dude, the Jets should have drafted him. He could have helped them a lot this year.
Jets should have done a lot of things.
Yeah, they should have. So, speaking of which, it's good that Aaron Glenn kind of had that meeting with Aaron Rodgers, and it said there's only one Aaron in this town, and it's not going to be big enough for both of us.
Yeah,
So, defensive rookie of the year, Jared Verse. I think this was kind of a no-brainer. He played excellent this year. And really, like, you can't replace a guy like Aaron Donald. However, he tried to do his best to do that. And I think the Rams were absolutely brilliant in pairing him and his teammate from Florida State on the same defensive line. Like those two played incredible together all year, and the fact that they're going to have them the next 4 years is just going to be, dude, people better look out for them.
I think what's wild is like didn't a Rams player win Defensive Rookie of the Year last year too? Like they seem to like they keep doing like the Rams have been drafting well lately, and like kudos to them.
Yeah,
Like
I'm not sure who won Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. It might have been someone from the Rams. But Jared Verse has just been incredible in terms of getting pressure, manning up the interior on that defensive line. It's just been he's done a very good job this year. And then comeback player of the year was Joe Burrow.
what does DeMar Hamlin have to do?
Yeah,
What, he died.
Yeah.
This man died, and they won't give him the fucking comeback player of the year.
Yeah, well, he got snubbed the year before with Joe Flacco, right? So it's like,
again, the man died.
yeah,
Like, if that's not comeback player of the year, I don't know what is.
yeah. Joe Burrow, I thought his speech was kind of funny, by the way. So was it? Did you see it? Was it Justin Jefferson that introduced his award?
Yeah,
Who looked absolutely blitzed out of his mind.
sure did.
He lost the teleprompter. I guess the teleprompter was messed up, but wow, dude, good for him.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow though, his speech was kind of funny in saying that like this isn't one you're really proud of. Like it's not one that you really want to be considered with multiple years in a row, but good for him to be able to win that. It's like a very sad, like it's like there's three people in terms of places, first, second, and third place, and he wins fourth place with that in MVP, right? So it's kind of like, oh yeah, well he showed up, let's give him a ribbon. But
again, just want to point out, DeMar Hamlin died.
Yeah,
and they didn't give him the comeback player of the year of the award in 2 straight years. The man died. Joe Burrow came back from a bad elbow.
Yeah,
one of these is not like the other. I'm sorry.
Well, he didn't die twice. He only died once, so they can only give it to him.
No, I know.
The year before. Yeah, I know. Next year we'll be singing the same praise though. We have to. Anything else you wanted to mention?
No, other than the fact that DeMar Hamlin died and they couldn't give this man comeback player of the year.
And the worst
sorry.
Dude, Joe Flacco seems so how do you even say it? He
was shocked the year before.
Yeah.
You could tell he had nothing prepared because he was like, what? Like, again, because they thought they were going to give it to the man who died.
All right, guys, let's move on here to some interesting news about a team that died in Super Bowl 59. So the Eagles are world champions.
Never win. Don't worry, they'll never win comeback team of the year because dying counts for nothing in this
it counts for nothing. So Uh, so they beat Kansas City 40-22, which is quite funny because, and as we talked about this, we were texting during the game on Sunday. It seems much closer than it really was. You could have, what should have been the score was 40-0, because that's what it felt like. You wouldn't know that Xavier Worthy had 2 touchdowns and caught 8 balls for 150 something yards. You wouldn't have known
Yeah.
any of that. I mean, it just seemed like the Chiefs got absolutely crushed. So, your initial thoughts on the game, Mal?
Yeah. Yeah, if you just looked at the box score and didn't look at anything else, you'd be like, wow, this was kind of a close-ish game. But no, this just kind of reminded me a lot of, except on a I think even worse scale, the Tampa Kansas City Super Bowl from a couple of years ago. Like Mahomes just Mahomes just couldn't do anything. Like, and I think the thing that they like did really well that I was like really impressed with was they didn't blitz once.
No, they kept saying that, dude. They just kept lining up. That was it.
Yeah, they threw four in the box and they were like, all right, cool. And like what they would do, which was like really fun, like I went back and I watched the game again last night because I recorded it. And I think the thing that they did that was like really cool was like so what like they would do is they like the ends would like kind of rush up the field and it forced Mahomes to step into the pocket, which is all well and good. But then by then, like the two D tackle had pushed their guys into Mahomes.
Yeah.
So like Mahomes couldn't go anywhere.
They collapsed the
Like,
pocket pretty easily on.
yeah.
And they
Yeah.
just
After
stopped
like
running the ball too. So it just.
yeah. After the first quarter, I kept thinking, man, I wonder how many times they've Phillies blitzed. And then when they were like, no, they haven't blitzed once. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because from what I was watching, it looks like they just kept consistently blitzing him.
Every single down. But that
Yeah.
wasn't the case. They just got so much pressure, man. They had that line on their heels the entire game.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. For me, listen, it was everything the Eagles thought about coming up to this moment for this game. Like, and as I like thought back through it, right? Like Jalen being here before, being very close, not getting his ring, all the three-peat talk that was going around that seemed kind of unnecessary, but had to be a narrative in this Super Bowl. The signing of Saquon in the offseason, the way last season ended, then them going for it on 4th down on the first drive of the game. Like all of these things, they were trying to send a message in this game. All of those
Yeah.
things came to fruition. And it was like, these are the reasons we have that we want to win this game. And it just seemed like their reasons were more than what the Chiefs had. To
Yeah.
me, at least.
Yeah, the fact that they were willing to come out on on that first drive and go for it on 4th down. Now it got negated because of a PI call,
Yeah.
but like the fact that they were able to do that, I kind of told you all you needed to know that they're like, all right, no, we're gonna just keep doing this. Like,
You're going to see a lot of teams going forward. Like Philly's notorious for it because of the tush push, but you're going to see a lot of teams. And look at the last 8 teams that were in the playoffs, right? All of them were teams that were consistently going for it on 4th down. Like, no, our
yeah,
offense is good enough. And that's what I didn't understand about Baltimore. You can line up and stop Derrick Henry, maybe on 1st down, maybe on 2nd down, maybe even on 3rd. Are you going to stop him on 4th down too? Like, eventually it just wears you out.
and
But
you saw that with Kansas City, like in the second half of that game.
yep.
Actually, to be honest, you started seeing it in like the second quarter when like they hit what was it something like Kansas City had run like 5 plays,
Yeah.
and you're like, man, they just like and they just kept like chipping away, and then like if you look at the time of possession, which I think to me is always the most telling stat, like Philly had the ball for 37 minutes of that game.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. That
And
is insane.
that was with, like, I still don't think it fully tells the story because that doesn't include the time at the end of the game where Philly was just letting the clock run while Kansas City had the ball, because it was like, okay, like, oh, you think you're going to get back in this game, you got to score 4 or 5 times now to be able to do that. They were up
Yeah.
34 nothing. But dude, the big moment for me, and this is kind of where this came about, was in the third quarter. You know, Kansas City turns the ball over on downs to them. Very difficult
Mhm.
thing. But it happens, right? The next play, Hurts hits Devonta Smith for that 46-yard touchdown. Just an absolute dagger, man. An absolute dagger. And after that, it's 34 nothing, you know, with the extra point. And yes, Kansas City scores right after that. And we were texting each other like, "Oh boy, is this where it's going to happen?" But they missed the 2-point attempt and it just felt at that point like it was over for me. I was like, "Dude,
I
they're not going to come back now." Like,
yeah, I thought for a minute that this was going to be Mahomes' 28-3 game.
mhm,
Like that's what I thought it was going to be at first.
yeah.
But I kind of want to go back. To me, when I knew this game was a little different was Kansas City is notorious for scoring right before the half and then getting the ball at the start of the third quarter and scoring again and
Yeah.
getting that weird like 2-for-1. The fact that like Philly made sure that like they didn't really get the ball back, I think was really telling at the end of the first half. And then that start of that third quarter where it was just like I think it was like what, like incompletion and then sack,
Yeah.
like, and then it was over. Right, and then you're like, oh, okay, wow.
Yep.
Usually, because you're just so used to Kansas City doing that, where it's like, all right, cool. They get the ball start of the third quarter, they're gonna march down, and then like,
They set the tone for the rest of the game at that point, and it's very difficult
and
to beat them.
Kansas City too committed dumb penalties. They committed some really dumb penalties. Like, I'm gonna say a thing. There was that was like it was like second and like 26 and like the guy like unnecessarily hits Saquon and they nail him for personal foul, and you're like,
Yeah.
that's that's just dumb on Kansas City's part. Like you
Yep.
got to play smarter, and that's where you could kind of tell that the wheels were falling off because like they don't make those errors
No,
typically.
they don't. They don't, man.
Yeah.
The thing, you know, it just they're a very well coached football team, but they
Mhm.
when things start to not go your way, like you said, the wheels falling off and stuff, you start to you see more of those plays coming up, those dumb penalties, not playing smart football, sound football at that point. And it was very tough to watch because this is a team that for the last 3 years has been the best team in football or
Mhm.
found ways to be the best team, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't the best team, but they found a way each time in each Super Bowl to do that. I did not expect to see a dismantling of a football team in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Dude,
And
think about
I
it. The
think
last two Super Bowls we've seen, right, that they both won,
mhm.
they were better than the Eagles, I thought, at that time. They were better than the 49ers, I thought, at that time. But both of those teams played up to the doorstep with them.
Yeah.
Like right at the hip and said, okay, you're going to score? No, we're going to score too. We'll figure it out. But this
And
game, they just didn't have it. Mhm.
and the thing was, it was like Kansas City's defense. I'm gonna say a weird thing, kind of kept hanging around for them because like the problem was like they just like those two interceptions in the second quarter were just killers.
Absolutely
That like
killer.
that really that like Cooper DeJean one,
Yeah. He's
I
special, dude.
he felt like he was running in slow motion, and I was like, somebody's gonna attack. No, no, okay,
He was like
like
that in college too, where dude's an athlete, first of all, and he's rare because he's a white guy in the secondary, but he's very, very talented, has excellent ball hawk skills, and I'll tell you, he's their return man too. But
yeah,
I don't know. It was his birthday, dude. Good for him.
yeah,
Good for him, man. But it was a dagger in their heart with that because Mahomes doesn't do that. He doesn't throw pick sixes. That just
no,
doesn't happen. Um,
no,
I
like
I haven't
I'm gonna
rewatched
say a
that
thing like
play.
Mahomes. Oh, go ahead.
I was just sorry for interrupting. I haven't rewatched that play, but I want to go back and look at the other players and see if they're really running him down on that play to try to tackle him because it that's a very demoralizing thing to happen. And it doesn't happen that often, so I'm wondering when it does, like how they're reacting.
As somebody that rewatched it yesterday, to be honest with you, he got a lot of good blocks.
Hmm.
That's exact like he I think there's a world where he could have gotten tackled, but like Philly was just fucking blocking for him, man.
Dude,
Like,
there's no better time as a defense than when you get the ball. Like, you're like, oh yeah, we get to play offense now. Now we get to
yeah,
hit people and play offense. Like, that's the
yeah,
cool part. So, uh, and I don't want those guys like Jordan Davis or Jalen Carter running laying blocks on people for me.
yeah,
Zach Bond, no. Mm-mm.
yeah. The Zach Bond interception too. Like, he makes a diving play.
Yeah,
Like, which
he's
is
earned himself a
insane.
nice paycheck next year for sure.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Um.
Hey, I'm gonna say a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't say this often, but like, Mahomes cost him that game.
Well, I
Like,
mean, let's since we're on talking about Mahomes, right? It was the worst game he's played professionally. And
oh yeah,
unfortunately, it was at the biggest, like on the biggest stage. Um I know there's all this talk about like, oh yeah, he's no longer in the greatest of all time conversation. I wish people would just stop mentioning that because dude,
it's still too early.
I don't think so, man. Like, okay, so yeah, he had people wanted there. This is the statistic that's really bothering me that people are drawing comparisons on. Oh, okay, Brady's won 7. Okay, I know that. Mahomes is won 3. 2. I'm sorry. I
There's
understand
one
that.
three.
Mahomes.
He had the he had the two.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
He beat the 49ers twice, and then the Eagles once.
Yeah. But he could have. Be. It could have been a 3 in a row. That's what I was trying to get to. Was it could have been a 3-peat, but it wasn't. So, with this, people are trying to say like, oh, okay, but Brady only gave up. Brady lost his 3 Super Bowls by a combined 15 points. Well, Mahomes is over 40. Neither one of these guys plays fucking defense, dude.
Yeah,
Neither one
I
of them
agree.
does. I just wish people would shut up about that. It doesn't matter. And people want to all of a sudden say, like, oh, because Brady won 7 Super Bowls, that he played stellar in all of those Super Bowls. He didn't, dude. He didn't. He barely beat the Rams twice. Like, I don't know, man. Like, just people wanted to, all of a sudden, they're like, oh, yeah, because he won the ring, he automatically played well. He didn't. Dude, Mahomes is a much better quarterback than Tom Brady was. Tom Brady had a 20-something year career to be able to win Super Bowls. And people forget, he also went 10 years between winning some of them.
Yeah.
Like, I just wish they would stop having the conversation, but this constant comparison of, oh, well, we need to compare him, and like, he's no longer the greatest. The first 7 years of Patrick Mahomes' career, 2 Super Bowl losses or not, were much better than Tom Brady's. He's done stuff that Tom Brady has never even dreamt of doing. And I understand what people want to say. They want to draw this comparison to Tom Brady, who's won the most rings. I don't really dislike Brady as much as I used to anymore. But I don't know. It's just, that's where we get into the frustrating piece of it. Patrick Mahomes plays the position of quarterback better than Tom Brady did. He does not have the accolades that Tom Brady does because he hasn't played a 20-year career. And he may never have that. He may never have those accolades, those rings. You're still not going to convince me that Peyton Manning wasn't a better quarterback than Tom Brady. Peyton Manning doesn't even have close to the amount of rings that Tom Brady does. But I still feel like Manning was a better processor of the game than Brady was. Brady was better at different things than him. They were. They're very different skill sets that they have. But I don't know. This conversation just bugs me. Go ahead.
I think like my favorite like Mahomes stat, like Mahomes has played in 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Super Bowls.
I know.
That's insane. That's it. Like, the worst that he's ever done as a starter is the AFC Championship game.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like, people automatically forget. They're like, oh, this dude's trash now. Like, I'm reading some of the comments on Twitter. It's a cesspool for just ignorance, man. Like, all that shit doesn't go away because he lost in a Super Bowl, man.
Yeah.
He's still, is there another guy that you're going to take more solace in beating next year than him? No, dude. The Chiefs are still going to be the Chiefs next year. They're going to reload. They're going to get more playmakers. They'll sign other guys that are going to come in. They'll get rid of their expensive veterans. They're going to try to revamp the line. They're going to be in the playoffs again next year because of him, how well they're coached, and what they do between Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, right? Like, it just...
Also,
I don't know.
Also, sorry, my other favorite Chiefs stat since 2018, every AFC title game has been played at Arrowhead.
Yeah, that's kind
Like
of
that's
crazy.
also insane. Like
Yeah.
that's yeah. I just like
Wait,
I don't
18,
think
was
this
that the year that Brady beat them there? When
Brady
it
stole that. That was the D Ford offsides.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yep.
Devastated, by the way, by that.
Yeah.
I was like, "Are you kidding me?" But yeah, it's
Yeah.
as a Patriots fan, it's unreal, man. It's unreal seeing that stuff happen and play out, and that's why you play 60 minutes. It's not That's what
Yep.
made Belichick great. That's what made the Patriots great. You knew that every time you played them, you were getting their best shot, and you had to bring your best shot, or else you weren't going to beat them. That's the thing, man. Like, okay, so this is one of two teams, right, that we're talking about. One of two teams that have really taken it to the Chiefs, right? They
Yeah.
basically lost one game this year. Call it what it is. Yeah, they were 15-2, but they basically lost one game. They didn't play any of their starters in the second game against Denver. But like, there was one team that beat them this year. And now, after the Super Bowl, like going into the Super Bowl, right? But seeing what the Eagles did, it was not the same as what the Bills did. It wasn't. It was very, very different.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I think that like there's a blueprint though. I think that's the thing is there's now a blueprint on how to beat this team.
but
Like
Al,
you have
isn't
to have a really good defensive line.
Yeah,
Like
but
you do.
isn't that the blueprint in all of these games? Think about it. Think about the recent memory, the last decade, or if you want to go back the last 20 years for football, all these great quarterbacks that existed, right? And I'm talking about like the Mannings, the Bradys. If we want to sit up here and crown Brady as the best because of the 7 rings, when did teams beat him? When they could get pressure on him. It doesn't matter what quarterback it is. If you can get pressure on these guys, they're
Yeah.
they're not going to be able to do what they do. And Philly figured out how to do it, like you said, without blitzing.
Yeah.
Like it,
Yeah.
6 sacks, dude. They had more sacks than I think the Chiefs did first downs. Like,
Yeah.
come
For a
on.
while. Yeah. It was
It's
I think what was the stat for a while that it was like almost until like the end of the half that Kansas City hadn't crossed midfield.
right. Yeah.
That's insane.
Insane.
That's
They
wild.
didn't they had, what was it? One first down in the first half?
Yeah, and it was on the first drive of the game. Yeah,
I don't
I
I don't know, man.
I don't think enough is being talked about. Like Vic Fangio, like that's an all time defensive game plan. That is what that was. Like that was a masterclass in like,
Not
hey,
to
how do we make somebody look bad?
not to mention, I think you had mentioned it last week when we had our show. Vic Fangio was 0-6 or 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes going into
Yeah,
this game. Like he had not beaten him in any of those games. So for him to figure it out, and what a crew to figure it out with, right? The Eagles just they got it done, man. It just
yeah,
I don't know. Some weird storylines that came up with this that I just didn't care for with the Super Bowl. Like people out there kind of throwing shade at Saquon because he didn't have that great of a game, and it's like, dude, he didn't
cool.
need to.
I'm gonna
I
say, think
He
he was
can't see
really
you, but on the bling of that ring now, you know.
he might have not he might not have done a lot running wise, but he was actually a big part of the passing game for Hurts. That
Pass blocking as well.
Yeah, he picked up a couple blitzes that like gave Hurts that extra 5 second or that extra second to get the ball out. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um. I'm
yeah,
happy for him.
yeah. Question: do you think now that Philly fans have won a Super Bowl with Nick Sirianni, do they at least give him a year where they don't call for his job?
Well, let me
Or
ask you this question: whose job do you think is safer, Nick Sirianni or Joe Schoen?
man, boy, I'm gonna.
Because Philly fans could wake up mad today. You don't know, right? Like they gotta be like, all right, he won one, but now he should move on. You know?
Yeah, yeah, you never know with Philly fans like what they're gonna do. Yeah, like Joe Sheen should have he should have been fired. Like the moment they let Saquon go to Philly. and I'm glad that HBO has it on tape forever. When the owner comes in, he's like, "Man, I'd lose a lot of sleep if he went to Philadelphia." And Joe Sheen's just kind of like smiling
Hey,
and like
when
kind of
when were you gonna tell me that I'm a dipshit and I was pronouncing his name wrong this whole time? It's Joe Shane.
yeah, I can never. I'm bad at pronouncing people's
No,
names.
but
So
you should have been like, Shane, you're an idiot, and I could have dealt
no,
with
no,
it.
they were gonna be like, "Shane, you're an idiot." No,
Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
no,
dude, that did not age well. Those clips,
no.
I had tons of fun watching those the last 2 days. I explained the whole situation to my wife. I said it was like an episode of Beverly Hills Housewives. And like
Mm.
she was like, "Wait, so they really just let him go?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "But that's dumb. Why would they do that?"
Yeah. I,
Well,
again, in real time when it was happening, we were like, "Boy, this is dumb."
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh Yeah, now it seems worse. By the way, we're just kidding. We know Nick Sirianni's job is probably not in danger until after week 1 next year.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
happy for Nick Sirianni too. Like I still think he's still going to be the same fiery guy. Now he's just got a Super Bowl under his belt.
Well, what was wild was like that first series.
Hmm.
Like he and AJ Brown are screaming at each other on the
Yeah,
sideline,
yeah, dude.
and Saquon has to get in there and be like, "Hey, be cool, guys, be
Yeah,
cool."
yeah.
Like,
We got
I
this.
think that I think that's just forever who Nick Sirianni is. Like,
Yeah, I don't know if Nick Sirianni was giving him a hard time. Like, I didn't hear what it was about, whether it was about that pass interference call, because he kind of pushed off, and that's what they had called on, which I don't know. Like, you could even tell. I know we had mentioned this last week with Brady not being able to comment on the ref calls. You could
yeah,
tell he was kind of like, don't really know about that one. Like it was,
yeah,
what are your thoughts, Jim? Like it was kind of funny to hear him go through that. I don't know, man. As I look at it, uh AJ Brown, even though the stats don't show it, that guy's a monster, man. And did exactly what he was supposed to do. Devonta Smith played well in addition to that. They didn't need 150 yards out of AJ Brown to win that game.
nope,
Not with Kansas City turning the ball over the way they did. Um,
nope. But like AJ Brown was like had a lot of big first downs. Like,
yeah,
yep,
felt really
yep.
good.
So
Um, they keep showing this picture of the Chiefs bench of
oh man, it's
and
fucking classic.
it's brutal, man. It is really tough to see. And just because anyone that's a sports fan at all has been in that position at some time, I imagine, of when it just seems like things are just not going right. Uh
Yeah,
and it just even as they were breaking the huddle, man, like you could see this is the most disappointing part. So that one series you're talking about, go back and watch it. When I think it was the beginning of the third quarter,
mm,
incompletion, they go and huddle up, they come back, they kind of walk to the line, they give up a sack, they're kind of looking around dejected, they huddle up, go back, like literally walk slowly to the line again, give up another sack, and then walk off the field. And it was just
yeah.
like one of those that was so sad to watch because that never happens.
I think it goes to show like you need a good offensive line.
Yeah,
And
dude, that's the story, right? That's the story.
Kansas City was so banged up on the offensive line that like it finally caught up with them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep. It just they got outplayed in the trenches on both sides of the ball, man. And when that happens, you're just not. I mean, Chris Jones getting hurt there, you could tell he got dinged up on his neck on that tush push. It just
yeah,
I mean, they stopped the run. They did exactly what they were supposed to do with that, but Jalen Hurts scrambled a lot and picked up
yeah,
a lot of first downs. He made throws when he needed to. Yeah, he threw the pick, but I mean, he was impressive again, man. Now you're talking about a guy that's been in 2 Super Bowls. He's won one, he's lost one against the same team, but he's looked very good on the biggest stage. And like, I know there's some people that just don't like him because he doesn't go out there. Like you were saying, kind of in fantasy, right? And fantasy's different from real life, but like in fantasy football, like it's frustrating to have a guy like that on your team because you don't really know how it's going to go and this and that,
yeah,
all that stuff. But like This dude, all he does is win. And everywhere he goes, people like him. It just, he seems like a great leader, man. And I couldn't have been happier seeing him sitting in the hallway with the trophy, smoking that cigar, just taking in the moment. I was
Yeah,
super happy for him, man, because he really seems like a very humble and grounded dude. And
yeah.
I'm very happy for him to be able to do
He's
that.
a son of a coach. He's a son of a coach, which tells you all you kind of need to know. Like the
Yeah,
guy gets it.
yeah,
Like,
yep. Not to
um,
mention, I don't know too many quarterbacks that exist in the world. And again, I don't know all of them, but I don't know too many quarterbacks that can get under there and squat close to 600 pounds,
yeah,
uh, or above 600. I know. I think he did 600 when he was in college. Like
yeah.
him and Saquon, they be lifting together. That's
Also, I think it's just a fun story to like the perseverance on him. Like he gets pulled at halftime of that national championship game, gets replaced for Tua, transfers to Oklahoma, is like the runner up in the Heisman voting that next year,
yep.
gets drafted in the second round, plays his ass off in that Super Bowl against Kansas City, but comes up just short.
Yeah,
Like,
barely. And it was controversial, people were saying as well.
yeah. But yeah, no, kudos to him. If you want, also real quick, I'm on sad Kansas City bench. If you want to watch a funny clip, I think it's towards the end of the game, and like Mahomes is just kind of like dapping up everybody, and he's like kind of going down the line. But so he skips the running back Pirine. He skips him and it goes right to Travis Kelsey. And it's the funniest thing ever. I don't think he meant to skip him. Maybe he did. I don't know. But it was just so goddamn funny.
Oh man. Well, let's anything else you wanted to mention about the Super Bowl?
No, it just again it makes me sad that the football season is over.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, real quick, can we talk about the new score bug that Fox decided to debut? Because
I
it's
don't
fucking awful.
I don't know what that is. Like they kept showing it, but I can't understand it. What is it that's wrong with it?
So I just looked at fuck it just looked dumb
I
to
don't know
me.
what do you mean score bug? I don't
So like okay, so like when you're watching a game and you see like the score at the bottom that's
Yeah.
always on your screen, that's what that's called, is a score bug.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I thought it
Yeah.
was like they're talking about like bugs with computers and stuff like
No.
you just don't like
No,
the way
so
it looks.
yeah, so they debuted a new one for the Super Bowl, and it's the joke that was made was that they only had $25 million left after they gave Tom Brady 375 million to like work on that.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like
the previous
Jesus.
ones looked way better. What happened?
Oh
They
yeah,
decided like less is more all of a sudden?
it was like I found it weirdly distracting, and I kept having to like look for things, and I was like, I know sometimes less is more, but not in this case.
Yeah,
Like,
I like it way more when they have the emblems instead of the letters.
yeah, me too.
Though I'm not really an academic, reading is challenging for me. So I just, I'd rather just look
Yeah,
at the pictures and the bright colors. Yeah.
yeah, we all love a good picture book. We know, we know. It's okay. It's
Oh
okay.
man, yeah, real bad. Yeah, that's okay. So now I at least know. I feel like I'm growing
Yeah.
up so fast. Thank you, Adam.
Oh man, grown up right before our eyes.
Yeah, thanks, Dad.
Yeah, you're welcome, son.
Oh man. All right. Well, I know it is sad that football's ending and stuff, but just want to remind Uncle Roger that even though technically he finished ahead of me in the standings, I beat him more times. Well, not really. I guess we tied, but I beat him when it counted this year. And
Yeah,
my fantasy football program, my book, will be coming out
mhm,
soon. So I expect
yeah,
him to be my first sub. Well, he's working on his OnlyFans in the off season. I'll be working on fantasy
yeah,
football. So
yeah. No, it's yeah. Your Uncle Roger, he not good at fantasy football. Turns out, not good at it.
not only that, but he's also a, a Yankees fan.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was already strikes 1, 2, and 3 against him. So like,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um.
he's out of strikes in my book. He's out of
Out of
strikes.
strikes. Well, I don't know. Maybe when we come back, we're gonna start diving into a little bit of a little bit of spring training for baseball,
Yeah.
because yeah, that's right around the corner here. So
Question, real
yeah,
quick, with your Uncle Roger, who now? who's the better Myro? Is it Roger or Big Ray? Because right now I think it might be Big Ray in my book.
Well,
Like,
right now, I listen.
ooh,
There's only
man.
one answer forever and always to that. It always goes to the older brother. Has
Yeah,
to.
Big Ray. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
until you like with the Chiefs, man. Until you take the king out, they still
Yeah.
reign. So
Look, man, as the oldest of three, I get it. Like you know,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, listen,
So
guys, thank you for hanging out for another episode. We will be back again, giving you guys more baseball and football content. But until then, I love you, brother.
oh man, I
Peace.
love you too.
All right.
Peace.